The metal restraints bit into Tom Miller's wrists as he sat in the dimly lit holding cell of the alien vessel. The gray-skinned beings who had captured him moved about with an air of smug superiority, their elongated heads held high as they discussed their latest human specimen in their clicking language. Tom couldn't blame them for underestimating him. At 5'8" with a slight build, he hardly cut an imposing figure. Even on Earth, people tended to overlook the quiet museum curator who spent his days cataloging ancient artifacts. But 20 years of handling mysterious relics had taught him that appearances could be deceiving. His captors hadn't even bothered to remove the strange bronze disc he'd discovered in an Iraqi dig site just days before his abduction. The artifact now hung heavily against his chest, hidden beneath his dirt-stained shirt. While the aliens had scanned him for weapons, they'd dismissed the disc as mere primitive jewelry, exactly as the ancient texts had predicted they would. The specimen shows minimal resistance, one of the aliens noted in their strange language, which Tom's neural translator struggled to decode. Typical of the physically inferior humans. This one appears particularly docile. Tom suppressed a smile. He'd spent the last 3 hours memorizing the patterns of guard rotations and studying the biolocked control panels that secured his cell. More importantly, he'd been feeling the disk grow steadily warmer against his skin as it absorbed the ambient energy from the ship's power systems, just as the cuneiform inscriptions had described. The head researcher, whom Tom had mentally dubbed Longfingers, due to his spindly digits, approached the cell's force field. "We'll begin the preliminary tests once we reach the primary research facility. This specimen's neural patterns show unusual complexity. Perhaps we'll finally understand how such a primitive species achieved space flight." Tom felt the disk pulse against his chest. The ancient Sumerians hadn't been primitive at all. They'd been preparing humanity for this moment. As the guard shift changed, he slid his hand beneath his shirt, feeling for the worn engravings he'd memorized by touch. "I should warn you," Tom said quietly, his fingers finding the correct sequence of symbols. "Not everything in human museums is just for display." The disk began to hum. The bronze disk erupted with brilliant golden light, filling the cell with a humming energy that made the air itself crackle. Longfingers stumbled backward, his large eyes widening in shock as the force field containing Tom flickered and died. "Impossible!" the alien researcher shrieked, his translator struggling to keep up with his agitated clicks. "Their technology is primitive. They haven't even achieved unified planetary governance." Tom rose calmly from his seat as the metal restraints fell away, turned to powder by the disk's energy. The artifact now floated inches from his chest, spinning slowly as ancient symbols along its edge pulsed with otherworldly power. Knowledge flooded his mind, information encoded millennia ago by those who had foreseen this moment. "You know," Tom said, stepping through the dead force field, "humans have a saying, those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it." He gestured at the disk. "This isn't the first time your kind has visited Earth. The Sumerians left detailed records of the encounter, and how they drove your ancestors away." Alarms blared throughout the ship as more aliens rushed toward the detention block. Tom could hear the heavy footfalls of their security forces approaching. The disk's light intensified, and he felt its ancient power surge through him. Thousands of years of carefully preserved knowledge unfolded in his consciousness. "Stand down!" ordered the security chief, a bulkier grayskin wearing ornate armor. A dozen guards leveled their energy weapons at Tom. "Your primitive artifact cannot protect you from our advanced weaponry." Tom shook his head. "You still don't understand. We didn't preserve this technology, we improved it." His fingers traced a new pattern across the disk's surface. "The Sumerians spent generations studying the physics behind your technology, breaking it down to its fundamental principles. They encoded that knowledge into artifacts like this, hiding them around the world, waiting for the day you'd return." The guards opened fire. Streams of plasma thundered toward Tom, only to curve around him like water around a rock. The disk's defensive field was perfectly calibrated to their weapons, just as the ancient engineers had designed it to be. "The funny thing about museums," Tom continued, his voice steady as he walked through the barrage of useless fire, is that people assume everything in them is dead. Static. But some artifacts aren't meant to be preserved, they're meant to be used. Longfingers backed away, frantically tapping commands into his data pad. This defies all our research. Humans are supposed to be centuries away from developing this level of energy manipulation. We didn't develop it, Tom corrected him. We inherited it. And we had a very, very long time to understand how it works. He reached out and touched the nearest wall panel. The disk's energy surged through the ship's systems, overriding controls and shutting down weapons. Now, I think it's time we had a serious discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy. The security chief dropped his useless weapon, mandibles clicking in what Tom's translator interpreted as a mix of fear and awe. What are you? Tom smiled, the disk now gently humming as it returned to his chest. I'm a curator. I preserve history. His eyes hardened. And I'm here to make sure humanity doesn't become another extinct exhibit in someone else's museum. Behind him, more containment cells powered down, releasing the dozens of other humans who had been captured for study. As his fellow captives emerged, Tom realized that this was just the beginning. The Sumerians hadn't just left them weapons, they'd left them a legacy. And it was time to show the galaxy exactly what humanity could do with it. The ship's main command center fell silent as Tom led the freed humans through its sliding doors. The alien crew stared in disbelief at the supposedly primitive beings who now walked freely through their advanced vessel. The bronze disk continued to pulse gently against Tom's chest, its warm glow a reminder of humanity's hidden strength. Among the freed captives was Dr. Robert Wells, a meteorologist from Australia whose eyes widened as he recognized Tom. Miller? Tom Miller from the Baghdad Museum? I read your paper on Sumerian astronomical tablets. The same, Tom replied, his attention focused on the ship's main control interface. The disk's energy flowed through him, translating the alien text into familiar patterns. Those tablets weren't just astronomical observations, Doctor. They were maintenance logs. A young woman in hiking gear stepped forward. Maintenance logs for what? For their ships. Tom gestured at the surrounding technology. The Sumerians didn't just study their visitors, they reversed engineered everything. But they knew humanity wasn't ready for this level of advancement. Not yet. So they broke it down into pieces, hiding the knowledge in plain sight across different cultures and civilizations. The ship's captain, taller than the other grayskins and wearing an elaborate uniform, stepped forward. If what you say is true, why reveal this power now? Why not when we first arrived? Tom's fingers danced across the control panel, bringing up a galactic map. Because you're not the only ones out there, are you? Your species is running from something. That's why you're so desperate to understand how humanity achieved our level of development so quickly. The captain's large eyes narrowed. How could you possibly? The disk doesn't just interface with your technology, Tom interrupted. It contains a complete history of your species' interactions with Earth, including the real reason your ancestors left so suddenly thousands of years ago. He turned to face the alien commander. The Harbingers are coming back, aren't they? A ripple of clicking sounds, their equivalent of nervous whispers, spread through the alien crew. The captain's gray skin paled further. If you know of the Harbingers, Longfingers spoke up, his scientific curiosity overtaking his fear, then you know why we need to understand humanity's development. Your species progressed from bronze tools to space flight in less than 5,000 years. It should have taken 50,000. Tom shook his head. We didn't progress that quickly. We were guided. The Sumerians knew the Harbingers would return. Each piece of technology they hid was meant to be discovered at exactly the right time, pushing humanity forward in a controlled progression. He smiled slightly. Did you really think the Industrial Revolution happened that fast by accident? Dr. Wells let out a low whistle. The Baghdad battery, the Antikythera mechanism. Just the pieces we were meant to find early, Tom confirmed. There are more. Much more. Hidden in ruins and museums across Earth, waiting to be activated. He turned back to the alien captain. The Sumerians didn't just leave us weapons to fight you. They left us weapons to fight them. The command center's main screen flickered, showing a massive object moving through deep space. A ship larger than cities, its surface covered in symbols that made the alien crew tremble. A harbinger vessel, the captain whispered. Already at the edge of your solar system. Good. Tom's fingers traced another pattern on the disk. Because humanity is done hiding. Those artifacts scattered across Earth? They're not just weapons or tools. Together they form a key to something the Sumerians built inside your planet Jupiter. The disk's light intensified. Something that's been waiting 5,000 years to wake up. The freed humans gathered around the display, watching as new data streamed across it, secrets hidden in humanity's past, finally revealing their true purpose. The age of preparation was over. The real test of humanity was about to begin. The massive viewscreen showed Jupiter's swirling storms in breathtaking detail as the alien ship approached the gas giant. Tom stood at the command console, the bronze disk now blazing with energy that made the air shimmer around him. The other freed humans watched in awe as ancient Sumerian symbols appeared in the planet's atmosphere, invisible to normal sensors but blindingly clear through the disk's power. The great red spot. Dr. Wells breathed, understanding dawning on his face. It's not a storm at all, is it? No, Tom confirmed, his fingers dancing across the alien controls. It's a door. The Sumerians didn't just hide artifacts on Earth, they built something inside Jupiter itself. Something so massive it creates its own gravitational distortions. The alien captain, who had reluctantly agreed to help after seeing the approaching harbinger vessel, clicked his mandibles nervously. Your ancestors hid a weapon inside a gas giant? The engineering required for such a feat. Not just a weapon, Tom corrected, as more data streamed across the screens. A shipyard. The Sumerians knew we need more than just one ship or one piece of technology to face the harbingers. They built us a fleet. The young woman in hiking gear, who had introduced herself as Kate, pointed at new readings appearing on the display. Those energy signatures, they're massive. How did our telescopes never detect this? Because it wasn't meant to be found until we had this. Tom held up the disk. Every artifact on Earth, every piece of ancient technology we've discovered, they're all keys. Parts of a code that, when brought together, would awaken what's sleeping inside Jupiter. He paused, studying the readings. The harbingers aren't just coming to destroy us. They're coming because they finally detected it powering up. Suddenly, the ship's sensors blared warnings. The harbinger vessel had accelerated, now moving at impossible speeds toward Jupiter. Its surface bristled with weapons that made the alien crew's advanced technology look like children's toys. They know, the captain whispered. They're coming to destroy it before. Tom's hand slammed down on the console, and the disk's energy surged through the ship's systems. Before we can claim our inheritance? Too late. The great red spot began to change. What had appeared as swirling clouds for centuries started to part, revealing something enormous beneath. Metal structures larger than continents emerged from Jupiter's depths, their surfaces covered in the same symbols that adorned Tom's disk. By all the stars! Longfingers gasped, his scientific instruments struggling to process what they were seeing. The energy readings, the technology, it's beyond anything we've ever encountered. The Harbinger's ship opened fire, sending beams of destructive energy powerful enough to shatter moons toward Jupiter. But as the attacks approached the gas giant, they simply stopped. A barrier of pure energy, hidden for thousands of years in the planet's atmosphere, absorbed every blast. The Sumerians left us more than just weapons, Tom explained, his voice firm as he initiated sequences he somehow knew by heart. They left us their understanding of the universe itself. The harbingers aren't invincible, they're just advanced. And humanity has had 5,000 years to prepare for them. The structures rising from Jupiter's depths began to move. What had looked like mere buildings were transforming, pieces shifting and connecting. Not a shipyard, but something far more incredible, a single vessel, larger than anything humanity had ever built, assembled piece by piece inside a gas giant by their ancient ancestors. That's impossible, the alien captain breathed. A ship that size, the power requirements alone. That's why they built it inside Jupiter, Tom said, as the disk's light grew to nearly blinding intensity. The entire planet is its power source. He turned to face the assembled humans and aliens. The Sumerians called it the Cradle of Stars. They built it not just to fight the Harbingers, but to ensure humanity would have a place among the stars, whether the galaxy wanted us there or not. The massive vessel finally emerged fully from Jupiter's clouds, its surface gleaming with power that made the Harbinger's ships seem dim in comparison. As Tom raised his hand to the control panel one final time, he smiled. Let's show them what humanity has been preparing for. The Cradle of Stars moved with impossible grace for something its size, its hull gleaming with energy drawn from Jupiter's core. Tom stood at its central command platform, the bronze disk now integrated into the ship's systems, pulsing in harmony with the ancient vessel's power source. The freed humans and alien crew watched in awe as screens materialized around them, showing the approaching Harbinger's ship in terrifying detail. Their weapon systems are charging, the alien captain reported, his voice tight with fear. Energy readings are beyond anything in our records. Tom nodded calmly. The Sumerians left detailed records of Harbinger capabilities. Everything we're seeing now, they saw thousands of years ago. His fingers traced patterns across the control surfaces that responded to his touch like living things. They spent generations preparing for this moment. The Harbinger vessel fired its main weapon, a beam of concentrated dark energy that could tear planets apart. But as it approached the Cradle of Stars, something remarkable happened. The ancient ship's hull began to ripple, countless layers of advanced shielding technology activating in sequence. The ship's defensive systems, Tom explained as the others gasped, aren't just built to absorb attacks. They're designed to learn from them. He gestured at new data streaming across the displays. Every weapon the Harbingers use against us makes us stronger. Dr. Wells studied the readings with wide eyes. The energy patterns, they're adapting in real time. The Sumerians didn't just give us a weapon, they gave us something that could evolve. The Harbinger's ship launched a barrage of smaller craft, each one powerful enough to devastate a modern military fleet. Kate pointed at approaching vessels with concern. Can we fight that many at once? Tom's response was to press his palm flat against the main control surface. The disk's energy surged through the ship, and suddenly the space around them came alive. What had looked like decorative patterns on the cradle's hull began to shift and separate, launching thousands of autonomous defense units. The Sumerians understood something fundamental about humanity, Tom said as their defenders engaged the Harbinger forces. We're not just survivors. We're innovators. They didn't build this ship to win one battle, they built it to ensure humanity would never be helpless again. The space around Jupiter erupted in a display of technology beyond anything humanity had dreamed possible. The Harbinger weapons, terrifying as they were, met their match in defenses crafted by ancient humans who had glimpsed this future and spent generations preparing for it. But the Harbingers weren't easily defeated. Their massive ship began to transform, revealing weapon systems that distorted the fabric of space itself. They're preparing their reality cannon, the alien captain warned. If that hits us. It won't, Tom interrupted, his hands dancing across the controls with increasing confidence. The disk's knowledge flowed through him, generations of preparation guiding his actions. Because the Sumerians knew about that weapon too. And they built something special just for it. The Cradle of Stars began to change. Its entire structure shifted, panels rotating and realigning. The energy of Jupiter itself flowed through conduits large enough to swallow continents. As the Harbinger's ship fired its reality-warping weapon, the ancient vessel revealed its true purpose. The Sumerians didn't just build us a ship, Tom announced as the Cradle's transformation completed. They built us a mirror for the universe itself. The reality cannon's blast struck the transformed vessel, and bounced back, amplified by the power of a gas giant, enhanced by technology that had waited patiently for 5,000 years to fulfill its purpose. The Harbinger's ship's own weapon struck it with devastating force. As their mighty vessel reeled from the impact, Tom turned to face the assembled humans and aliens. Now they know. Humanity isn't just another primitive species to be studied or destroyed. His eyes gleamed with the same intensity as the disk in his chest. We're the ones they should have been afraid of all along. The Harbinger's ship listed in space, its once mighty hull crackling with the aftermath of its own reflected power. But Tom knew better than to assume victory too soon. The disk's warmth against his chest warned him that the battle's true climax was yet to come. Multiple energy signatures, Kate called out, monitoring the defensive screens. They're preparing something big. The damaged Harbinger vessel began to pulse with an ominous light. Its surface rippled as if reality itself was being torn apart around it. Longfinger's instruments screamed warnings as they detected the building power. They're initiating their final protocol, the alien captain explained, mandibles clicking rapidly. They'll destroy themselves to take us with them. The energy release will devastate your entire solar system. Tom stood calmly at the cradle's controls, a slight smile playing across his face. The Sumerians predicted this too. Why do you think they built this ship inside Jupiter? His hands moved across the ancient controls with practiced confidence. All this time, we thought Jupiter's great red spot was hiding our weapon. But it's not just a weapon, it's a door. The massive ship's systems responded to his commands, and suddenly the space around them began to warp. The storms of Jupiter swirled with new purpose, and the gas giant's immense gravitational field started to focus around the cradle of stars. The Harbingers aren't the only ones who can manipulate reality, Tom explained as ancient machinery awakened. But while they use it to destroy, the Sumerians learned to use it to create. They built doorways between the stars themselves. The Harbinger's ship's self-destruct sequence reached its peak, but as it did, the space around both vessels began to fold. The cradle of stars channeled Jupiter's entire gravitational field, creating something unprecedented, a controlled dimensional rift. Hold on, Tom commanded as reality twisted around them. The Harbinger vessel's final explosion began, but instead of expanding outward, it was drawn into the rift. The cradle's systems channeled the devastating energy, redirecting it through pathways built by ancient human hands. Dr. Wells watched in amazement as the readings stabilized. They're not just containing the explosion, they're using it. The Sumerians built this ship to harness the Harbinger's own power. The explosion that should have devastated the solar system was instead captured and transformed. As the rift sealed, the Harbinger's ship was gone, its final act of destruction converted into pure energy that now flowed through the cradle's systems. That's what the Sumerians understood about humanity, Tom said, the disk's glow finally beginning to fade. Our greatest strength isn't in weapons or technology. It's in our ability to take what others would use to destroy us and turn it into something new. The alien captain approached Tom, bowing his elongated head in respect. We greatly underestimated your species. The galaxy believed humans were barely worth studying. Now we understand, you were never meant to be studied. You were meant to be learned from. Tom turned to face the gathered humans and aliens. The Sumerians didn't just leave us weapons to fight the Harbingers. They left us the tools to reshape the galaxy itself. Those artifacts scattered across Earth? They're not just keys to this ship, they're keys to humanity's future among the stars. Kate looked out at the now quiet space where the Harbinger's ship had been. Will more come? Probably, Tom admitted. But we're ready for them now. The Cradle of Stars isn't just one ship, it's a template. Using what we've learned here, humanity can build more. We can create our own future instead of hiding from those who would destroy it. The bronze disc hummed one final time against his chest, its purpose fulfilled. But Tom knew this wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. Humanity had claimed its inheritance, but the real work was just starting. So, Dr. Wells said with a grin, what do we tell everyone back on Earth? Tom looked out at Jupiter's swirling storms, at the ship that had waited patiently for humanity to be ready, and at the stars that now held infinite possibilities. We tell them the truth. We tell them that humanity's greatest artifacts weren't meant for museums. He smiled. They were meant for the stars.